This is the Jeff Messer Show on 880 The Revolution.
Welcome back, and this is exciting here, Seth. I hope that our next guest doesn't psychologically evaluate us. Look out. Oh, no, we're in trouble now.
Yeah, I didn't sign up for this today.
Dr. Steve Buser is here with me in the studio. Steve, it's good to see you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah.
Nice to be here, Jeff.
I'm afraid, and I'm in love all at once with this book that you are a part of.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
A massive number of people who are a part of this book. This is all about Donald Trump.
Indeed.
Donald Trump. And from a psychiatric sort of standpoint, which is a frightening prospect, I know.
Well, and it's actually
comically frightening, perhaps. I don't know.
It isn't about Donald Trump. The book, in fact, a lot of people make that assumption because we do have a fairly stark image of Mr. Trump on the cover.
Yes.
But the title, Clear and Present Danger, Narcissism in the Era of Donald Trump,
right.
The book's really about narcissism, but the first third of it has a lot of Donald Trump in it as well, I would say.
And it's called Clear and Present Danger, Narcissism in the Era of Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where I said this maybe 7 or 8 months ago, that what Trump is doing, we may owe him a thank you down the road. It may take a while to get there, but we may owe him a thank you because
about that too.
He has opened up this repressed racism and hatred and all of this stuff that has spent 50 years being, tamped down. Like, in the mid-'60s, I sort of feel like in the mid-'60s, instead of us addressing and healing as a nation, we just told people, your views are now invalid, just go away and be quiet. And they've been stewing now for a couple of generations and waiting for an excuse to go, hey, my points are valid too, and just have never felt like they've been allowed to until now.
Exactly right.
And this is just sort of bringing things back up. I also think, and I have a theory, that this is just the very loud and annoying death rattle of an era finally coming to an end. This is the last gasp, if you will, because all of those people are dying off. It's like their way of life is no longer the way of life, and it's just this desperation. Am I anywhere close to
well, it's
from
hard
a
to say.
Professional standpoint?
I think yes and no.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be wonderful if that were the case, and I've been thinking the very same thing of this energy that Donald Trump has brought to the election, as frightening as it can be at times. Is it indeed a needed expression of some dark shadow energy that's there? I don't know about extinguishing it, though. Whenever you have light, you'll always have dark. There's a polarity and a balance in nature, almost like Star Wars and the dark side of the Force. You almost have to have both to some degree. But I would hope that overall we would be evolving into more progressive views as time progresses.
Well, and we're seeing that, too, with social issues. The rapid pace of social change in the past 5 or 6 years has in 5 years we've done more socially than we have in the 25 years previous.
The changes.
Like everybody with same-sex marriage, with legalization of marijuana, just to name two issues.
Even transgender issues.
Transgender
Except
issues.
for North Carolina, but everywhere else is progressing.
Well, that's just on the official side of it. It's like in reality, they're the ones that are off off the page. But we see that happening so rapidly. Is a lot of this kind of a pushback to that too? Like it's too quick for some people to.
It really could
accept.
be. Yeah, I've been equally surprised how rapid that pace of progress or change has been. And if you're someone like I suspect you and I, we're motivated and encouraged by that. If you're somebody who doesn't see that as a good piece, and the change has been so intense, it could really trigger some counter reaction, from you. And Donald Trump absolutely is tapping into that without a doubt.
Do you think, and I know this is probably out of your field, it's a little out of my field too, there's this uncertainty that a lot of people have because I think I know how things are going to unfold on Tuesday.
We hope.
Because of the other issues. Like we are making progress. There are more people who are opening up to peace, love, and happiness. There are more people who are susceptible to that. It's just the people who are opposing that are so loud, but they are the minority. But the perception now is that because of the volume, they seem to be more massive than maybe they actually are.
Although the fact that the race is as close as it is at this point, which was surprising to many of us, suggests that some of those elements are really more wider spread than we were aware of.
Oh, for sure. And I question some of the polling and the media manipulation because they need it to be. Like 2 days ago, I saw it I've been watching for this, right?
For the close.
I've been watching it on the TV above me here in the room, and it popped up 2 days ago. Too close to call, like that term. Like, when is it going to happen? When is it going to enter the race? And it entered like 6 days left.
We wouldn't tune in on Tuesday and watch the commercials if it wasn't too close to call.
Exactly. And so it behooves the media to make sure that it's like, well, we don't know. We don't know how it's going to go. And I think they're sort of setting up the losing side to be really disappointed. Like, this kind of happened to Mitt Romney.
It's a landslide. Right.
Well, this happened to Mitt Romney in 2012 when they were like, we're only going to poll people that are going to tell us what we want to hear. And so people say, that, and maybe as a psychiatrist you can address this, that he was really crestfallen on election night when things started rolling in and nothing was coming back the way that he had been told. It's like, well, you'd hired a polling group to tell you what you wanted to hear, and so they did.
They
didn't tell you the reality. Yeah.
You wonder about the current polling methods. Are they really in touch with the polls adequately? Are they using cell phones sufficiently? Are people willing to share views that they may not have in the past? Many people hang up the minute they get a poll. So are they accurate or not is a really good question.
Yeah, and getting into the psychological makeup of the type of people who are okay with taking that call and eagerly responding to a pollster.
Indeed.
And how many people out there are doing it just to mess with them.
Right.
As well. I would suspect most people are honest, but I'm sitting there going, if they're annoying me during dinner, I might have a little fun with them. So I don't know how honest it is. There was a poll that came out, Target Smart William Mary College a couple of days ago, did the smartest poll I've ever seen in Florida. They actually polled people who have already voted. As opposed to likely voters or who will you vote for, some theoretical thing. They actually just called people who had voted and said, hey, you voted. Who'd you vote for?
Right.
And they got the results, which was pretty staggering as far as how people had actually voted. And I thought, well, this is the only poll so far that I actually trust.
That's real data.
Out of Florida, because that's legit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now, but we're getting down all kinds of alleyways and pathways. I apologize. Let's talk about the book here.
Okay.
How did this come about? How did you get involved with it? Kind of give us the lay of the land there.
It was a very quick project. I'm the publisher for a small niche publishing company based here out of Asheville, North Carolina, called Chiron Publications. Chiron, like the Greek centaur. And it's a publishing company of 33-year duration, about 200 titles, so kind of medium, small size.
I love that. There's several small, publishing companies within this region. That's really kind of fun. Yeah,
right. It's a psychological book publishing company, and mostly Carl Jung, Jungian, psychology. We have a number of authors out of Switzerland, where some of the Jungian institutes are, and nationally and international as well. But back in April, we were frightened and disturbed by what we were seeing in the primaries at that point, and the incredible surge of Donald Trump's popularity. We were struck with, why is this happening and what's the phenomenon behind that? And we actually got the book out in 3.5 months, which is really unheard of if you have ever edited or produced a book. Usually a year to 2 years is common. And we sent out a call to about 20 psychologists, psychiatrists, and a number of professors asking their input of what is happening, not just with Donald Trump and narcissism, but this whole area of narcissism within our country and even our world. And the majority got our chapters back within the month. They turned it around quickly. And the whole title, A Clear and Present Danger, Narcissism in the Era of Donald Trump, but the clear and present danger, I think, says it all, that the authors and ourselves as publishers were aware of, wait a minute, there's a clear danger here. Right. We can't be quiet. We can't just let it go by. We need to speak out on this. Even if people get offended that we're psychiatrists talking about it, we feel a duty to warn, in essence, and talk about this. And we got it out quickly.
Maybe the reason it came out so quickly, and I could be wrong about this, but Trump is pure ego with no hint of id anywhere to be found. It's almost as if it's not, I don't want to say it's not hard work, because you guys definitely do a lot of hard work, but some things are kind of layups. And when you look at this, it's like everything is right on Front Street with Trump. It's so
pretty much
so easy and so out there to most psychiatrists, professionals who have been doing this or really, are good at their jobs, look at it and go, boy, yeah, this is it's pretty clear cut.
Sort of. I would say yes and no with that one as well. Certainly the trends and pointing towards narcissism, a lot of people will quickly and easily go in that path. We're actually very careful in the book. We have an entire section on a disclaimer of sorts that violating the Goldwater Rule, which we don't necessarily need to talk too much about, but there's a American Psychiatric Association Goldwater Rule back to the Lyndon B. Johnson, Barry Goldwater campaign, where psychiatrists are forbidden to diagnose, formally.
Right.
And we actually respect that because we haven't evaluated Donald Trump. We haven't done any psychological testing.
Yeah, this is looking through the window as opposed to actually one-on-one.
So we go to the line, but we don't cross the line,
sure.
I would say. And we talk about the diagnostic criterion of narcissism. We look at direct Trump's quotes from Donald Trump. Right. And we let the reader and ultimately the voter on Tuesday decide for themselves whether they believe he has the clinical piece or not. But as interesting as that question is, I agree that that's only goes so far. Much more interesting, we thought, was the phenomenon of Trump. Not so much does he have it, but what the heck has happened over the last number of months or a year or two that has brought so many people to Donald Trump.
Right.
And so many of our
very
authors look at that.
attractive. Yeah, it's like, why is this attractive to especially certain groups of people? And I want to be careful not to overly simplify it and so forth. But I was in the press section of the Trump rally here in Asheville, and it was just sort of interesting, like looking at a number of people there and going, on every level, you have nothing in common with Trump's life experience or with where he's coming from, yet they're drawn towards him.
What's happening with that? That was the real question of the book. Many of the authors talk about.
It's not charismatic to me. What he's doing, but why is it charismatic to others? And that's a real. I think a lot of people, especially progressives and the more kind of elite thinkers, if you will, on the left. And I'm not putting myself in that category by any stretch, but I think we're perplexed by it. Like, how do they not see through what I feel like I see through, the subterfuge? And
that's the news story. That was really the thrust of the book. Not does he have narcissism or not. I mean, that's an opinion that as you read through the book, you make your own conclusions. But what is the underlying currents and the phenomenon that have led to that? We had two chapters that spoke, well, a number of chapters speak to it, but two in particular I like to highlight. One is a question of a Trump complex, of a psychological complex pulling people to Donald Trump. The other is looking at and analyzing the core messages of the Trump campaign and how that connects into fears and hidden thoughts with that. Right. And those two theories, I think, speak a lot to what might be going on with this current phenomenon.
Do you think that people really see him as a savior against a corrupt system? That sort of belief,
possibly, although a lot of it is unconscious. As a psychiatrist, we look at a lot of the rational, conscious ideas, but I think most of this is really drawn on an unconscious level. That what draws people to Donald Trump isn't consciously thinking through his pros and cons, but this deep fear, anxiety, and unconscious thrust that brings them to it. Much of it goes back to the trauma, the national trauma that we've been through, which you could go back to Vietnam, and the series of trauma since then, really after World War II, where we seem to be on top of the planet on some levels.
A lot of tension, a lot of anxiety,
things growing,
that
building.
Cold War mentality,
And since the Twin Tower attack, a intensification of that, of the terrorism, the threat that we feel under from ISIS and the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, into decades of war now with that. And, of course, the stock market and economic crash of 2008, those group trauma, national traumas, really developed a national wound that we think is propelling people towards a figure of strength and nostalgia, that Donald Trump incorporates this Trump complex, we call it in the book, of a strong man who nostalgically will bring us back to the good old days when America was dominant, there was no political correctness, white men were in charge.
We weren't afraid of some sort of other thing from outside coming to...
We were in control, and until the Russians got the atomic bomb as well, we were on the top of the heap.
That's a really narrow window of good old days, though, if you think about it. I mean,
right. Well, not just that. I would say probably the 10 years after that, 1950s, I think many 50s, people see as America was dominant on the world stage, and people feared us. Our corporations controlled
the post-war kind of the baby boom was beginning and all of that stuff. So I mean, people are really nostalgic for that.
Yep, there's been a decline since then. In their mind, some would say it's been a progress been made, but
and I've said before too. I said that they want the social construct of the 50s with the economics of the 80s, which is unfeasible.
Exactly,
because part of the reason that things started coming apart. And I've pointed to this too when Elizabeth Warren cited that if wages had kept track with growth since 1980, the minimum wage would be $22 and change today, and the separation of and it's like this is why before that the tax rate was different. Before that the way corporations were dealt with
social injustice that's been
and the part of the thing that frustrates the folks who are frustrated by it, they're misattributing. Reaganomics is really part of why you're so upset, but you think Ronald Reagan was great.
Exactly right.
And
they missed
so
the true
it's like they don't understand where things really. Anyway, it's a complex thing, and it's really hard to tell people that because they don't want to hear it.
But then you see this insurgence of support for Donald Trump, and it's amazing how that is just swept right away by some of these energies.
Is it because people don't want to do the thinking on their own too? There's a certain amount of I want to be protected by someone and not have to worry about it. Like
there certainly could be that dynamic. There's a father knows best energy from Donald Trump. Well, trust me, it's going to be great. You're going to love it. We're going to be winners again. Don't worry about anything. Just trust me. It'll all be okay. And that certainly is a paternalistic throwback to the old days where he just trusted the government and they're not going to do anything bad. And,
and he's delivering his speeches in basically it's almost like. Fourth grade class president style, so it's really easy to consume. It's light on heavy content, and it's easy.
And you look at his policies; it's rare for him to really develop a policy fully. He just says, "I'm going to do a good thing, and you'll like it, and it'll be great."
He says, "Believe me" a lot too, Indeed. Which I think is a huge tip off. The fact that someone has to say "believe me" that many times at the end of a sentence, you get a little problem there.
Indeed.
All right, we need to take a quick break. Man, I'm so getting into this. I'm starting to geek out. Dr. Steve Buser is here. He is talking about A Clear and Present Danger, Narcissism in the Era of Donald Trump. It is a book that's out. We'll tell you all about how you can get the copy of the book and everything. But we need to take a quick break. We'll come back and continue the conversation right after this.
I don't know how many people I've sent to Jimmy's. I lost track a long time ago. We like to buy cars and then drive them for 20 years. They're so supportive of us, and they're very proud.
Hello, this is Jimmy Sexton. Our repair process at Jimmy's is what sets us apart. Before your car even sees a wrench, we check it twice, and we talk to you about your options. After the repair, we check it twice again. We make sure it's fixed right the first time. Jimmy's Automotive, where customers send their friends.
Call 658-3030.
Maybe you vote because you feel like it's your duty as an American. Maybe it's because it's a powerful way to have your voice be heard. Or maybe it's because you believe it will look great on your dating profile between long walks on the beach and dog lover. Whatever the reason, we want to know. So log on to votingbecause.com. Tell us why you vote, and you could be featured on USA Today. Because as long as you're voting, there's no bad because.
I don't know how many people I've sent to Jimmy's. I lost track a long time ago. We like to buy cars and then drive them for 20 years. They're so supportive of us, and they're very proud.
Hello, this is Jimmy Sexton. Our repair process at Jimmy's is what sets us apart. Before your car even sees a wrench, we check it twice, and we talk to you about your options. After the repair, we check it twice again. We make sure it's fixed right the first time. Jimmy's Automotive, where customers send their friends.
Call 658-3030.
Love wine, food, shopping, and animals? Then you'll love the 13th Annual Taste of Compassion, benefiting the Asheville Humane Society, Saturday, November 5th at the Morris Hellenic Cultural Center, presented by Animal Hospital of North Asheville and sponsored by iHeartRadio. Get tickets at AshevilleHumane.org.
This is the Jeff Messer Show on 880 The Revolution.
All right, we're back, and Dr. Steve Buser going to stick around past the top of the hour just because Seth is like getting a free session. Really? Not for us. It's not for us. It's for everybody out there that's supporting Donald Trump or part of that narcissistic world that, I don't know, is it American exceptionalism? Is that another word for narcissism in the minds of certain people?
Well, it can be. There can be a national narcissism with that, and the United States carries that mantle, frequently. If you look at our foreign policy over the decades, there was a lot of America knows best. We're going to storm in and show you how to have a democracy.
Right.
We're always right. We don't make mistakes. Yeah. Right. And that could be why Donald Trump plays well.
Nobody gets into our business, but we're in everybody else's business. There's something there.
Yeah.
Dr. Steve Buser is here. It is great to be talking to a professional about the narcissism in the era of Donald Trump. That is the book. We'll tell you all about how you can get copies and more. It could be the last book you buy before the apocalypse. You never know. Tuesday could be the day. Who knows? Dr. Steve Buser. We'll be right back after the news. You're listening to The Jeff Messer Show.